I'm Alex Michaelson, and welcome to The Issue Is from Northern California and Southern California. This week, the issue is no collusion?
You might think that's okay. I don't.
Congressman Adam Schiff furious after Republicans, including the president, call on him to resign. He's standing by to talk with us. Then, a debate between Ann Coulter and Stephanie Miller on impeachment, the border, and more. Plus,
if I had not come as the CEO of the campaign, Trump would not have won.
She followed Steve Bannon around for more than a year. So what's he really like behind the scenes? We talked to the woman behind The Brink. The Issue Is starts right now. And welcome to a brand new era for The Issue Is. I'm Alex Michaelson, reporting from the KTVU newsroom in Oakland. And starting right now, our show is now being broadcast in Northern California, in addition to being broadcast in Southern California. We launched in Southern California last May, and our very first guest on that very first show was Congressman Adam Schiff. He's now the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, and he joins us now for our relaunch. Congressman, thank you so much for your support of The Issue Is.
My pleasure. Great to be on your show.
All right, what a week for you in terms of the news. We have the big news coming out of the House Intelligence Committee is your colleagues, your Republican colleagues, calling for you to resign at a hearing, and several of them signing a letter asking for you to resign after we got a portion of the Mueller report from Attorney General Bill Barr. The president talking about you on Sean Hannity. Take a listen.
Because he was making horrible statements that he knew were false. And frankly, I heard they should force him off the committee or off the committee chair. He should be forced out of office.
So what's your response to the president? Any plans to resign?
Well, this is a tactic the president has used some time, attacking me on Hannity, attacking me on Twitter. And sadly, all too often, when the president says jump, Mr. McCarthy and his Republican friends in Congress say how high.
Of course, the president isn't the only critic out there. His son also has been very critical of you on Twitter, putting out a tweet referencing the Loch Ness Monster and saying that you have leading a tinfoil hat brigade. The president's counselor, Kellyanne Conway, accusing you of being a liar. Here's what she had to say.
Adam Schiff should resign. He has no right as somebody who's been peddling a lie day after day after day, unchallenged and not under oath.
So when you hear that, when you first heard the summary of the Mueller report in the Barr letter, was there any part of you that thought, maybe I've gone too far, maybe I owe the president an apology?
Well, first of all, in terms of Don Jr. or Kellyanne Conway, any day that I'm attacked by the likes of them is probably a very good day for me. After all, this is the inventor of alternate facts, and she's producing some new alternate facts this week. Look, what I have said all along, and Elex, I've said this probably dozens of times publicly on television, perhaps even on your show as well, that the evidence of collusion is in plain sight. Let me just tell you what some of that evidence is. And this pertains to one of the people you brought up, Don Jr. The Russians, through an intermediary, offered dirt on Hillary Clinton to the Trump campaign, something it said was part of the Russian government's effort to help the Trump campaign. And what did Don Jr. do when he received this overture? Did he call the FBI? No. Did he rebuff them and say under no circumstances? No. His response was, I would love it. If it's what you say it is, that is of a highly sensitive and secret nature, dirt on Hillary by the Russian government, if it's what you say it is, I would love it. And then he went and set up a meeting in Trump Tower. The campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, thought it was worth his attending that meeting to get that dirt, as did Jared Kushner. And then they lied about it. They concealed the meeting. When it was discovered, Don Jr. and reportedly his father produced this false statement to try to cover up that meeting, that evidence of collusion. But I'll also point out that Paul Manafort, we know, and again, this is part of the public record, Paul Manafort provided information or offered to provide information to a Russian oligarch, Oleg Deripaska, in exchange for money or the forgiveness of debt. He offered polling data to someone linked to Russian intelligence. The National Security Advisor, Mike Flynn, secretly had conversations with the Russian ambassador to undermine bipartisan sanctions. and lied about it. The president himself called on the Russians to hack his opponent's emails, and later that day, the Russians, the GRU, the same people responsible for that social media campaign, hearing him, did try to hack some of those servers. This is just a partial list. Your show would need to be longer for me to go through all of it. But again, what I have said all along is that this is evidence of corrupt behavior. Yes, it is evidence of collusion, but whether it rises to a prosecutable offense, proof beyond a reasonable doubt of the elements of criminal conspiracy is for Bob Mueller to decide.
And what we know so far is that Mueller said that that did not establish the conspiracy, which does not mean that there was no evidence of a conspiracy. It just means that he did not believe that there was enough evidence for a criminal prosecution. Why do you think that is? Why do you think, given all of what you just said, that they aren't going forward with some sort of prosecution?
Well, Alex, you're exactly right, and herein lies the difference between corrupt behavior and something that you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt is a violation of the law. It's a pretty high burden of proof to show each of the elements of a criminal conspiracy. Not even Don Jr. is likely to sign his name to a written contract saying, I hereby accept the help of the Russian government, and here's how I'm going to coordinate. You generally need, frankly, recordings of participants in a conspiracy or some other very demonstrable proof of that nature. Now, those communications, those written emails, are direct evidence, but nonetheless, it is a high bar.
So you mentioned what your past statements, including some of your past statements on this show. We want to go back to May 4th, which was our first show when we talked to you and asked you what you would do as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Here's what you said.
Well, the first thing that we would do is we would release all the transcripts of the interviews that we've done so far. The Republicans committed to doing this, but I knew that they wouldn't fall through because those transcripts both reveal evidence of collusion and obstruction of justice, but they also reveal the degree to which Republican colleagues on the Intelligence Committee were never serious about the investigation, ignored plain evidence of collusion, wouldn't allow us to bring in key witnesses.
So what's next for this investigation? Are you going to release transcripts that show direct evidence of collusion, and when is that going to happen?
We are, Elex, and we have continually pressed the intelligence community, which is in the process of reviewing those transcripts for any classified information, to give us the green light to redact anything that's classified, to allow us to make the public release. And they have continued to push back and say they're not done, they need more time. We're going to continue to ride them until we get that done. We have sought to have them prioritize and accelerate certain transcripts so we don't have to wait for all of them to be done. They have resisted that effort, but we will be releasing all the transcripts. All of those are going to come out in time when they're finished. And I think you will see when you read those transcripts just how fundamentally unserious my GOP colleagues were about the investigation.
For people that are just getting to watch our show for the first time in Northern California, we like to have a little bit of fun and get to know people as well. So, Congressman, I know it's been a crazy week for you, but we're going to hopefully smile for a moment. We have a new game called Either Or. This is where you get an opportunity to pick either this or that. So and this has a Northern California theme this week. So here we go. You ready? The first question is Golden Gate Bridge or 405 freeway in rush hour?
Oh, jeez. Oh, God. I think I'd rather walk, but I guess not knowing the bridge, I'll pick the bridge because I know the 405 is a disaster.
Yeah, well, everybody loves the Golden Gate Bridge. Willie Mays or Sandy Koufax?
Well, I got to meet Sandy Koufax. I'm going to have to go with Sandy Koufax.
Okay. Ghirardelli or See's Candy?
Oh, that was easy. Ghirardelli.
There you go. There's some love from NorCal there. Napa or French wine?
Oh, please. They're getting easier all the time. Definitely Napa.
49ers or Raiders?
Oh, well, that is also easy for me. Oakland Raiders. Wherever they end up, I'm an Oakland Raider fan. Win or lose, and it's been mostly lose. But I'm very optimistic about the coming season.
Yeah, well, soon to be the Las Vegas Raiders. And then Frank Sinatra or Tony Bennett?
Oh, well, I'm quite a diehard Sinatra fan, so I'm going to go with Frank Sinatra.
Well, you know, he's also sung I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Most people think of it as Tony Bennett, but there's a great version from Sinatra, which we're listening to now. So we will say thank you, Congressman, with that. And your playout song today is Old Blue Eyes.
Excellent.
Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you so much. Well, up next, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Ann Coulter and Stephanie Miller on together at the same time. It's a debate. We don't know what's about to happen, but we're excited to see what does. More of the issue is right after this.
From Southern California to the Bay Area, you're watching The Issue Is.
And welcome back. Now we are in Los Angeles. And are you ready for this? I don't know if I am. Here we go. Our show brings together some pretty unusual combinations of people, and this week is no exception. Welcome to our panel this week.
Thank you.
Ann Coulter is, of course, one of the best-known conservative commentators in the world. Her latest book, Resistance is Futile, How the Trump-Hating Left Lost Its Collective Mind, is her 13th New York Times bestseller. Congratulations on that. Stephanie Miller, one of the best-known progressive pundits on the planet. The Stephanie Miller Show airs on Sirius XM and on Real Talk 9:10 a.m. in our new home of the San Francisco Bay Area. Welcome to you both. Good to have you here.
It's delightful. Thank you. Already.
So we just heard from Congressman Schiff, of course, one of the big stories of this week, the Mueller Report. Your thoughts after seeing what we saw of the report so far and hearing from the Congressman?
Well, I wasn't surprised that there's no collusion. Of course, there was no collusion. It was such a crazy conspiracy theory from the beginning. But wow, it makes the media look bad. They build these elaborate fantasies. If you had one normal person who knew anything there, who could pull the card out with one little fact, then the theories come crashing down. And, you know, that's Robert Mueller has to assemble facts. He certainly put together a group of prosecutors who detest Donald Trump. If they had been able to find something, I think they would have.
Just the title of her book already pissed me off, and then you had to talk. Listen, we met in the 90s. Remember the late 90s during the Clinton prosecution? Are you kidding me? If you substituted the name Clinton or Obama with this unbelievable array of offenses, we're already past a zillion impeachable offenses. Adam Schiff was brilliant both in your interview and on the House floor this week. I mean, that was some Mr. Smith Goes to Washington stuff. He laid out the plan, the whole prosecution beautifully. And are you kidding me? This is a active Russian asset with the nuclear codes. He stood there in Helsinki and said, I agree with Putin and not our 17 intelligence agencies, and you didn't think that seemed a little weird. You don't think him ticking off everything on Putin's wish list is a little weird. Again, as Schiff said, we may not have reached the bar for criminal conspiracy, but the collusion is in plain sight.
No, I think it's just pointing and sputtering, and anything Trump does, he's doing the things
indictments
that he's allowed.
How many guilty pleas? How many people in prison?
Donald Trump. Tell me what the lie was that Trump told.
I'm going to spontaneously combust like
Tell me what the lie was.
a spinal tap drummer.
These 3,000.
I am not going to survive this today,
okay,
people.
But hold one other than pointing and sputtering.
Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me? Isn't an argument.
What? How? Really? So
he's
is
a Russian agent.
Obama's
isn't an argument.
campaign manager, deputy campaign manager, national security advisor, personal lawyer were all in prison or on their way there. What? Seriously?
Having nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Would you like to see the Mueller report instead of?
Of course.
Okay.
But that's the new conspiracy theory that, secretly they found collusion, but Barr is lying to us. Maybe Mueller is a Russian agent, too.
There's obstruction we haven't even heard about yet.
No. Let's leave it there for now. We have more to come. Any podcast fans out there, I encourage you to check out a special podcast I recorded today with Ann Coulter. It's less about the news of the day and more about who is the real Ann Coulter. All of our past episodes and a whole lot more digital extras available in podcast form. Just search for The Issue Is wherever you stream. Up next, the president says he wants to close the border. Could be closing it next week. So what does our panel think of that? Stay with us. He's listening to your tweets.
Yeah, not closely enough.
Yeah. Madonna sang about the borderline. And speaking of the border, the president says if Mexico doesn't immediately stop any illegal immigration coming in through the southern border, he'll be closing portions of the border next week. So what does that mean? Back with our panel, Ann Coulter, Stephanie Miller. Stephanie, what do you make of that tweet?
You know very well that border crossings are at a 40-year low. We do not need this stupid wall, whatever it's made of, see-through, whatever it is today. He is a con man and a grifter and a criminal. It's just it doesn't matter what the subject is. Every day there's a competition before just complete incompetence, incoherence.
Should we shut down the border next week?
Well, I don't know what he means, but I mean, listening to Stephanie, this is why he can do nothing and he'll be reelected. All he does is talk, talk, talk. He never actually does anything, but then liberals are hysterical, so people listening think, well, I want a border, he must be doing it. No, he's not doing anything. He talks a good game. Yeah, of course we should shut it down. That used to be an issue the left cared about. Bernie Sanders had a position on immigration indistinguishable from Donald Trump's. Why? Because who does it hurt? It doesn't hurt Stephanie. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt me. I mean, except to the extent we love our fellow Americans, it hurts the working class. It's their jobs, their communities, their hospitals, their schools that are being overwhelmed.
Donald Trump is a hypocrite like everyone else on the right, and you know it. He employs a bunch of illegal immigrants himself. Please, this crap about you helping the working man. He doesn't care about that.
I don't care what he does personally, other than not keeping his promises. Keep your promise. I don't care if he had employed illegals, and I don't even know if it's true.
I agree with her again. He doesn't keep any of his promises, and now we've entered a wormhole in the universe.
He said he would build a wall, would deport illegals, would bring the jobs back. He could so transform America and transform the two parties. These aren't traditional Republican issues. They're pro-American issues, thus his campaign promise.
Really? Baby jails is an American issue? That's something that should make us proud as Americans?
You know what? The richest man in the world, or at least periodically, is Carlos Slim. He is a Mexican. How about the rich in Mexico take care of their poor, and the rich in America take care of America's poor?
Most of these people aren't Mexican. They're Guatemalans,
okay, how about the rich in Guatemala take
Hondurans?
Care of them? How did the poor people of the universe become our problem? We're not a battered women's shelter. We have our own poor people.
Are you still wearing your crucifix that you usually wear? Because have you read anything Jesus actually said?
Why,
Who was a refugee?
I have.
Okay.
We do agree that Donald Trump is the best president in our lifetime. Stephanie and I agree on that.
Okay.
Just want to do the same thing you're doing to me.
Do we agree that we like California as a concept?
I like the weather.
We like the weather here.
I like the weather.
We like that, and we like the people. Some of the good people of San Francisco.
Like you most of the time.
Yeah.
Yes. Don't touch
me. We got some music for our friends in San Francisco who are joining us for the first time. So thank you both for being a part of this, and thank you for being good sports.
This was so the opposite of fun, and I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Up next, a look inside the world of Steve Bannon, unlike anything you've ever seen before. More of The Issue Is right after this. Little village people.
Send in Steve Bannon.
For some, Steve Bannon, former confidant to President Trump, is an evil force to be reckoned with, like the Grim Reaper himself. But does the real-life Steve Bannon live up to the hype? Director Alison Klayman followed him around for months as a sort of fly on the wall. The result is the newly released documentary called The Brink.
If I had not come as the CEO of the campaign, Trump would not have won.
And that's a fact.
The Brink takes you behind the curtains in the life of Steve Bannon.
It's an observational verite film, so it's really allowing you as an audience member to draw your own conclusions.
Filmmaker Alison Klayman followed Bannon around for more than a year. She started soon after he left the White House as chief strategist.
I'm about one thing. I'm about winning.
Bannon is not, the Grim Reaper as he's portrayed on SNL. I mean, he's a person.
Klayman worked as a one-woman crew, sometimes filming more than 10 hours a day. Often, she's the only woman in the room.
My goal was really to not draw attention to myself.
God damn it. Just stay focused.
Bannon maintains an exhaustive schedule, often traveling on private jets to give speeches about populism.
I'm gonna get so crushed in this film.
He often meets with the very same reporters he calls the enemy of the people.
But the reality is he is incredibly chummy with the media.
Are you now consulting for the National Rally Party?
And your point?
Bannon often travels throughout Europe, helping nationalist leaders.
Is Steve Bannon a racist?
You know, as much as I've spent, all this time watching him, I don't know what's in his heart. I don't know that that matters, though, because I believe that he promotes policies and is willing to engage in rhetoric that emboldens racism.
Who is funding this group?
Love him or hate him, Klayman says there's value in understanding Bannon and why so many love his ideas.
Even when you're someone that you strongly disagree with, you have to see them as a full human.
And our thanks to Allison. The Brink is playing in theaters now. Next week, one of the most influential players in all of California politics, Tom Steyer, is here, while the donor and activist is still betting big on impeachment. I'm Elex Michaelson. Thanks for being with us for our statewide launch. We'll see you next week for more of The Issue Is.